May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, preserving the legacy of Shunryu, Suzuki, and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have a guest, Ann Overton, and I'll get right into calling her up and talking with her, and we can listen to what she has to say and what I have to say. But first, we're going to have our pause to meditate. But before that, I just want to say one thing. I got my Moderna booster yesterday, and this was one of the goals of my life, and I was very happy to get it. Katrinka and I got AstraZeneca here in Bali, and it had been, like maybe 9 months since the second shot. I'm not sure when it was. Anyway, yeah, I think 6 months, which we wanted, would have been last fall. And compliments of the government. The first two shots we got were at the local Bali Hyatt, and there was just a ton of volunteers from the hospitality industry, restaurants and hotels, and most of them fairly young and really together. And there were like 1,000 people there at a time. And they organized and had us, they did it so well. And they had so many volunteers, because we're senior citizens, I guess, and foreigners, we had somebody, with us to sort of guide us through the process, filling things out and taking us to the next station to wait. And we skipped that. There were like 300 people sitting there. We skipped that. But we had to go through various steps of waiting, but it didn't take that long. About maybe an hour after we arrived, we were getting blood pressure tests, and Katrinka's blood pressure was a little high, and they made her sit and wait for it to come down, and it did. And then after that, you go, and this is in a fairly large, conference room or something. It's beautiful as heck with all this carving around and everything. Bali Hyatt is really posh. I mean, gardens are gorgeous, statues and fountains and beautiful woodwork and stonework. I never eat there or anything. Oh, I did once. I had a little something, we had some tea and a little something on the beach. But we like to walk through it to go to the beach. Although that is unusual because it's about a 35-minute walk from here, I'd say, but if we're over there, we might do that to go to the beach. And there's various ways you can go from the entrance in there. But anyway, so that was all very efficiently done for both of them. And then, after you get it, you wait, and they give you a certificate. And then we got our Peduli Lindungi app on the iPhone. What does that mean? Peduli Lindungi, take care and it basically means take care and preserve. It's the government way of keeping track of everybody, and it's very efficient. And you have a little QR code there, you use to go into a bank or to see a movie. Man can't see a movie without that QR code, and to get in malls and stuff. Not that we see a lot of movies. We saw one movie in the last year in the theater, and the theaters here are wonderful, just so nice. And they have the VIP, where you get served food. I don't want that. I can't stand that. It interferes. Anyway, so we're reading Jackie Pomeroy's COVID-19 update. It's daily on Facebook. And then she sort of indicates that, the Moderna vaccine will be available. Actually, the Moderna is available to those who got AstraZeneca as the booster. And if you got Sinovac, that would be the AstraZeneca booster. But about the day Katrinka arrived from America on the 20th, I went to the driver who we've been using for, him. We've been using him about 7 years just to go longer distances. So I called Komang and I said, hey, he was going to come pick me up to go to the airport. And I said, which would have been like picking me up at 2 p.m. I said, instead, would you come at 7 a.m. and let's get over to the Puskesmas, which is it's a small public hospital. They're around here and there, not like the big ones. I said, because I can register there to get the Monsanto booster. But there'll be a lot of people there, and they can only take 28 every other day or something like that. So we went there, and, I kept getting steered wrong and waiting. And then somebody said, come back at noon. And I didn't trust that because I thought, no, it's supposed to be 8 to 12. So I came back a little early, and then they said, we got some stuff arranged that had to be arranged. And they said, okay, come back tomorrow. I went, no, I won't. I've already come twice today. So a woman put my name on the list, said, we'll call you in a few days, and you can come here and get it. But they didn't call me. So I called Komang up day before yesterday, and I said, hey, come on. They never called me. Would you call them up, find out what's up? So he did, and he said, it's going to be in a new place. Because of where you live, it's going to be this other place. So he picked me up yesterday, and we went over there and got there before 8. And it was up down. This time it was a bank. And the bank wasn't open. It's a type of small public bank. And there was an adjoining restaurant, very nice, all these tables outside. And there are all these people there sitting, waiting for her to open up at 8. And I expected this totally efficient thing with lots of volunteers, but it wasn't that at all. They were totally understaffed. And there were like, say, 300 people there. And there was, I think they had, or maybe there were 250 people there. I think there were more like 300. And I think they said they could deal with 250 people. And so there were some, like long tables set up, folding tables, and some women who were sort of like nurses or maybe trained to, deal with this there. And just a printer and a guy with a computer. And then all of a sudden, the people crush around this one table. He's handing out numbers for the line. And it had nothing to do with when you arrived or anything. It's just who can push up. And although everybody was very civil and there was no one angry or pushing or anything like that, rudely, it was too much. So even I didn't try to go in and get a number, and Komang didn't either. So there's a lot of, sort of hanging around what's happening, going up and trying to get in to talk to one of the nurse-like people or one of those administrators there. Not many of them. And then one of them said, we'll just go down to the end of the table there. So anyway, somehow more stuff like that went on. I was ready to leave. I said, this isn't going to work out. Come on. Let's just go and try again or something. And there's a local community center here where you can sign up and get it on Mondays, I hear now. But anyway, somehow I ended up sitting in the chair. I mean, I didn't have a number. But there's this nice German guy, an artist, jewelry maker, who's been here a while. And he and I had talked some. It was very interesting. I enjoyed meeting him. And he said, come here. Just kidding. He pushed me in front of him. I'm sitting in a chair, I get my blood pressure taken. I go to the next chair, and then I go through the documents and the Peduli Lindungi on the app and stuff. And it's all right. And then she signs something on one of the pieces of paper, one of my documents. And then I go wait and just stand around. And then, somebody gets up from a chair from getting a shot, and they say, all right, sit down. And I sit down, and I get a shot. And then we wait around, and there's this guy there typing stuff out and printing up the certificates that you got the third one out. And so eventually I could see he was doing mine because our guest dog, Boom Boo, had eaten some of the documents around the edge and torn them and stuff. And I said, oh, that's mine. I know, because the dog ate it, like the dog ate my homework. And I said, any questions? He went, no. And he printed it up and handed it to me. And I said, well, what about the Peduli Lindungi? He said, it's already in there. It's already registered with the government. You got proof. You can show it in your iPhone. And I left. And I just thought it was a miracle. I mean, it was so confused. It was so unlike the other thing. However, everybody was very civil. There wasn't a problem with that like there would have been in some countries I know of with angry people yelling and stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. Now, hey, time for pause to meditate. So when you hear the bell, hit pause if you're of such a mind and meditate or whatever for as long as you wish. And when you're ready to come back, hit unpause. We'll hit the bell to end the meditation or whatever. And then we'll give Ann Overton a call. And Ann was a student, of Shunryu Suzuki. And I knew her in Japan, too. She was in Japan when I was there. She was in Japan longer. So let's hear what she has to say.
Hello.
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
Okay.
Good.
What are you up to these days? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Let's see. I was teaching English second language, and then I retired, and I started training to be a Buddhist chaplain.
Oh.
I'm doing that with Gil Fronsdahl and Paul Haller are teaching it. And then I started something at San Francisco General, but now they were training people, and you, as part of it, you go on the wards, but they don't want you to do that because of it's been suspended because of COVID.
Oh God, but they need people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's the? That's all good. That's all great. So, how's the COVID thing going there for you?
Well, actually, today I went and got a COVID test. I wasn't sure, but I had a slight sore throat, and I just thought I have Kaiser, so I called them up, and they said yeah. So I went to this. If I go to Oakland, there are too many things, so I went to San Leandro, which is farther away, and it was like a Fellini movie. You go there, and there's this great big hospital building, and then there's all these big, it seemed like acres of empty parking lots. And you go, and at first I wasn't sure where to go,
Yeah.
And then I saw this person in scrubs. She was sort of walking on the border of this Nowheresville. And so I got out and asked her, and she was very nice and told me what to do. And then you go, and there's kind of a series of guys wearing day-glow vests. And you go to one, and he points to the next person, and you go to the next person, and he points another direction. And then eventually you get to this little tent, and there are two people there. There's nobody waiting to be tested, just two people there doing the test. And, they put the things in my nose. And then, I said, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your doing this. And then I figured out how to get out and get back on the freeway. But it was so, it was just like this blank slate with a few people on it. It was very strange.
Huh. So when do you get the results?
I get them Thursday or Friday.
Huh.
Tuesday
And what
here.
type of test is that? Because when I've gone here to get a test where they do a nose swab, I just wait 15 minutes and they give me the results.
Well, I guess there are two different kinds. There's a quick result test and a long result. This is the longer result.
Yeah.
I can't remember the names of them, but
Yeah.
I just talked to this doctor on the phone, and then they said, well, here's when you can go. And I thought, fine, I'll just do what they think is good,
Yeah. All right. Well, when did you first come to the San Francisco Zen Center? When did you get involved with that?
It was in the summer of 1970.
And what led to that? How did that come about?
Okay. I came because my brother Peter, but before that, I was interested in Buddhism in college, and I was very interested in this idea that people could do things and it wasn't based on their ego,
Yeah.
Like I thought, could I do that? I don't know. And then, I was like, what? Then I read this thing. I was studying art, and then, do you know George Nakashima? He's a Nisei. He's passed on, but he's a Nisei furniture designer. He works very sensitively with wood. Some of it's a little like Shaker, but a lot of the stuff he did, he was following 3D the grain of the wood. At the same time, he made furniture that people could use. Like the table would be flat, and then the edges would be more like following the natural flow. So I read this article about him. I think it was Newsweek or something interviewed him, and he said that he was talking about working with wood, and he said he had to go to India from time to time to be with his teacher and meditate because he couldn't work with wood. He couldn't do what he was doing when he's encountering wood if his ego was there. So that was very inspiring to me. And that was more what I wanted to do. I didn't really have this idea about getting Kensho and, trying to teach people about Zen or something like that. It's more like this is how you encounter it, And then at Zen Center, I talked to
let me ask
Sensei.
you one thing. What school?
Sure.
Where were you in school?
I went to American University in Washington, D.C.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, you've heard of it? I mean.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. All right.
So I talked to Yoshimura Sensei about this, and I said, I'm trying to look at what I'm doing and seeing if I'm really basing what I'm doing on my ego. And I said, but sometimes my ego changes, and I can't always see what's going on. And I said, I think I have a sneaky ego. And he thought that was hysterically funny. He started laughing, sneaky ego. And I thought that was great. I could make a Zen teacher laugh,
Yeah. That's funny. So there you were in Washington, D.C. Where are you from? Where were you and Peter, fraternal twins? Where were you born?
I grew up in Chicago.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I grew up on the south side in a neighborhood called Hyde Park.
Oh, sure.
It's around the University of Chicago.
Yeah. Huh. So you went from Chicago to American University in Washington, D.C., and you read about that. So how did being in American University and reading about George Nakashima and all that lead you over to the West Coast?
Oh, I went to the West Coast. I dropped out of school for a semester, and I went to the West Coast, and I went to Berkeley. I had friends from, a friend from my childhood in Chicago who was at Berkeley. So I came out, and I just liked the West Coast. I thought the West Coast was, okay. Hi, I'm here. Um,
Yeah.
I remember describing someone. If you look at the map of America, there are all these roads. If you look at the road map of the states, uh, on the East Coast they're all kind of crunched together, and then when you get out to the West, they're more spread out. The roads
Right.
and the
Right.
highways,
And
and I
they're
thought that was
bigger.
more relaxed. I thought that was better. I thought it was a more relaxed way of doing it.
Uh-huh.
Also, the first time I went, I happened to arrive in Berkeley at the same time that Otis Redding released "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay." So I thought
Oh
that was
yeah.
kind of yeah, yeah. I loved Otis Redding, so
Yeah.
I thought that was very important.
So
um,
so there you were, and what happened?
uh, oh, when I came, I just felt more. It was not so fancy and complicated. It was more relaxed. It
Hmm.
just felt more natural and relaxed and not so complicated and not so, how will I say it? Little layers of things where you're super polite and all that stuff in the East Coast.
Huh. So,
Uh,
um,
yeah.
so there you are. I'm trying to take you from there to becoming aware of the Zen Center.
Oh, I came and Peter was living here in a group house and they were Zen students and it was in Berkeley and we all went in the morning we get in the car and we go sit, at the first Berkeley Zendo, the one that was up in an attic
Oh,
with Mel.
so you got involved through the Berkeley Zendo because your
Yeah.
brother had gotten involved first.
Yes, that's right.
All right, I see. All right, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we used to go. We went twice a week to San Francisco to go to the lectures, Suzuki Roshi, and
Mm-hmm.
then I went to a lot of sessions. I figured out that I could work as a cleaning lady and a substitute teacher, and then I could to get time off to go to sessions. A regular job, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You got a dog, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Somebody arrived.
Ah,
Uh,
right.
yeah. Somebody got here. It's our
Okay.
house cleaner, and
Oh, good.
well, our housekeeper really,
Hmm.
and yeah. So that's good. She's here. The gardener's here too, so I don't have to worry about anybody.
Oh, good.
They'll take care of anybody that comes and
Mm.
wants anything. Yeah. Oh yeah. The dogs love Cadet, the housekeeper.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, they get very excited when she comes. She comes 3 times a week. All right, so back we're back in Berkeley there.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
what when did you do you remember the first time your first impressions of Suzuki Roshi or anything about that?
Let's see. First, I went to some lectures before I went to sessions with him. And
Yeah.
I was surprised because he gave a lecture and he was talking and he was going from it looked like kind of one topic to another, but it all
Mm-hmm.
worked together. I was very surprised. It was like it really held together and was a whole thing that made sense, but it wasn't in the way that things usually make sense. It wasn't
Ah.
so cerebral. It didn't the way you make an outline for a paper you're writing for college or something. It wasn't like that. But
Yeah.
it was clear that it all fell together. So that was very like, wow, how does that work?
Ha 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 ha.
I was going to throw something else in about go, visiting back to this thing about ego. I think nowadays they have this expression. I think it's called sidelining, where you think you're doing something in the Dharma, but actually you're doing something unhealthy. You've made a mistake. Do you know what I mean? Have you heard about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I got into that like sort of getting into, I'm not egotistical, I don't have an ego, and then it was really turning into people, taking advantage of me and using me. I mean, I was not doing it in a healthy way. I think this thing of sidelining that people talk about now is great. I wish they had
I don't
it
know
when
what
I
you're talking
started,
about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Sidelining is sort of like, the example of me is I'm trying not to have an ego. I will not have an ego. However, I'm really not at all standing up for myself. I'm letting people walk all over me. I'm doing something that's really unhealthy, but I've labeled it as something that's the dharma.
Mm-hmm.
Are we okay? Yeah. So people now, I read it sometimes like in Tricycle or something. I think it's called sidelining, where the person is trying to do the dharma and they do something they call the dharma, but actually it's a mistaken understanding. They're doing something that's kind of unhealthy and isn't really related to dharma. But they think
I think that's the norm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, but I wasn't so aware of that.
Yeah.
It would have been helpful if somebody kind of pointed that out to me, but I'm doing my best.
Well, yeah. Buddha said, if you're shooting an arrow at a target and you just keep shooting and shooting and you shoot 99 times, say, and then the 100th you finally hit it, you can't say the 99 were done in vain.
Yes.
We're always sort of off track and diluted in our practice, but it's also been pointed out that no one ever attained enlightenment except through greed, hate, and delusion.
Yes, and seeing it very clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to hear whatever you have to say about Suzuki Zen Center, your experiences there, any memories that pop up.
Okay. So Suzuki Roshi, I had Dokasan with him once, and I was very new and very nervous, and he asked me some questions, and I didn't know what to do. And then he said, well, could I correct your posture? And I said, sure. So he's just touching me very lightly on my back and my shoulders. But it was not like a touch that I had ever felt before. It was like, I don't know I wish I could put it into words, but it was so, like this person really pays attention to things. But it was just in the touch. It wasn't anything he was saying. But it impressed me very much.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only time I had a face-to-face conversation. Then I was in the Zendo when, I don't know if you were in this session, maybe you were at Tassajara. It was when somebody rang the wake-up bell early, and then they somehow went around and told people it was a mistake, and so everyone went back to bed. And then then they rang it again at the correct time, and then everybody went to the Zendo. And then Suzuki Roshi was very upset about this, and he went around the Zendo hitting everybody and talking about it. He said, you just hear the bell and you get up. You don't, you hear the bell and you go, you hit it. Excuse me. I want to be careful to say I'm not quoting him. Okay. Those aren't quotations from him, but the theme of what he was saying, I just want to be very careful about this. The theme of what he was saying was, you hear the bell and you go, you don't process it in your mind. So he went he went sort of in lines, coming down the line we were sitting in lines, and he started the one facing the window, which I happened to be the windows on Lily Alley.
Yeah.
And he was hitting very hard. And then I didn't know you're supposed to gasho afterwards if they hit you. I knew you're supposed to gasho if you wanted to get hit. I didn't know you're supposed to gasho if someone hit you and you didn't ask. So he hit me, and then he said, gasho! And I didn't know what gasho was. And luckily, the girl next to me, she put her hands, go like this, go like this. And so I did it like that, and then that was okay. The painful part of this, yeah, thank God she was there. I don't know what would happen. Anyway, but the painful part of it was that you could hear it was all of him. I mean, he was just doing it. It was all of him doing this, shouting and hitting. But you could hear as he got farther and around Zendo that his voice was failing, that it was, he was giving it all that he had, but he was, coughing, and his voice was softer, and, I just felt like, Jesus Christ, sort of like he's doing all that he can, but it's clear that his energy is fading, while he's doing it.
Yeah.
It was painful, that part. Also, I just didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, I think Mel rang the bell that morning. I have that memory, but yeah,
yeah,
and then went telling everybody to go back to sleep.
Oh.
And so yes, this many people. Many people have told that story, and
Yes.
it of course is embedded in many people's memories. And yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, indeed. So, well, what else?
Okay. Let's see. I would say now, I did do some hospice work through Zen Center, and
That would be much later, right?
Yeah, that was much later. We're talking about Hiroshi still.
No, you're talking about anything you want to.
Okay, all right. Let's stay closer to that era and then move forward in time.
Yeah.
So, one sad part was the ceremony when Roshi came back. Richard Baker came back from Japan, and he was going to become the abbot.
Yeah.
And Kobenchino was kind of like organizing. I mean, he would say, and now these people will stand up and do this, or now we will offer incense. He was kind of, I thought a real bodhisattva was leading people through the ceremony, but not like he was strict of it. He was more like saying what's going to happen,
Yeah.
And there was a point where he turned to Suzuki Roshi, who was sitting next to Okusan, and Suzuki Roshi was kind of leaning forward with his eyes closed. I mean, he was, not well. And this is just my impression, okay? This is my interpretation of what I saw, okay? He sort of leaned, almost gesturing towards Suzuki Roshi, and it was clear whatever it was, Suzuki Roshi was not going to respond, was not able to. And then Kobenchino went and said, now we're going to do this, did something else. And Okusan started crying.
Yeah, this is in Dick's, Richard Baker's Mountain Seat ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I remember, let's see, during the ceremony, Bill Kwong, when they had they have a question, Dharma combat maybe, and people come up and ask questions, and Bill Kwong shouted, maybe it was Quats or something, I don't know what it was, but he shouted something, and Richard Baker said, show me your true nature without shouting. And then Bill Kwong turned around and he's walking around, I could see his nostrils flaring after that.
Yeah. Bill Kwong always did that. It's every question answered ceremony and everything, he'd always do a quats or something like that.
Yeah, whatever.
And and he and Richard had a long history of antagonism.
Yeah.
And that mainly went back to one thing, but Bill was like the senior person there, and Richard, just early on, like in '63, they had a little power struggle, who would hit bells and this and that, and Bill couldn't Richard held a meeting because Suzuki went to Japan, and Richard complained because Bill was doing everything. He was hitting all the bells and doing everything, and Bill said, "That's what Sensei asked me to do." Richard said, "Well, you should share it, and we should do so." And so there was Richard called a meeting, and Bill said, "Bill, I've heard this from various people, but Bill told me too." He said he just couldn't take the competition thing, so he just started sitting in Mill Valley. I don't know. That's when that happened. And, so there was, that there was always, because of that, some sort of, minor power struggle between senior disciples.
I see. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I went to the place. We sometimes drove over to Mill Valley and went to that. I liked it very much.
Yeah.
Did you go to it ever?
Oh, yeah.
In Mill Valley?
Yeah, I drove Suzuki there sometimes. It was at the, let's see now, Altamont, something like Altamont Recreation Center. Or it might not be Altamont, something that sounds like Altamont. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's close to the freeway. I think that's what I remember.
Yeah, you come in off 101, go to Tam Junction, make a right, and then you're sort of going around the lagoon or whatever it is toward the high school, and it's over there to the left. And it's still like that there.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed. Well, now I haven't been there in like 8 years, over 8 years. But,
I liked it because, please go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, Mill Valley, it was nice going over there and sitting. He started the first satellite Zendo, I'd say. But I don't know the exact story of it, I know the Los Altos one very well. That started more like 65. All right.
Okay. What I liked about that one, and just quickly, the one in Mill Valley is you would get there and I think they sweep the floor first, big wide dust mops, those big dust mops that are really like a big long bar. And then you'd set up all the cushions and everything. And I think we had Goza mats too and everything.
Right.
Then you would go outside and they would come in and you'd bow to come in because it was a different room, And then at the end, you would leave and you'd bow because it was a Zendo. And then you'd come back in and it wasn't a Zendo. And you'd just walk in and start picking up the zakus. I loved that transformation. Right.
Because the room was used for other things. And everything was stored between, wasn't it Monday morning?
I don't remember. What day it was.
That might have been the only use of it was just one morning a week, or it might have been that there was that Suzuki Roshi would go there and talk one day a week.
I was going to go back to the ceremony where Richard Baker became. What I remember, the other thing I remember was that when he was leaving, when Suzuki Roshi was leaving the ceremony, he couldn't walk on his own. He left the room with one person on either side of him, walking with him.
Yeah, with his son Hoitsu on one side and Mitsu on the other, his wife Mitsu on the other.
And then everyone, as he passed, everyone bowed. We were sitting on the ground, but we bowed our foreheads to the floor as he went past. Interesting. You don't remember that. Anyway, that's what I remember. Anyway.
Of course, I remember it. I don't remember bowing to the
Well, maybe not
floor.
to the
I
floor, like
remember,
bowing. You're like you're sitting down, but you're lowering your head, and then your
right,
neck. Maybe
right.
okay, the floor,
Yeah,
that was an exaggeration. Scratch that. But I mean, like
yeah,
really bowing a lot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What most people remember about that moment is him stopping and shaking his staff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
An extremely dramatic moment because it was like his last public statement.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it had bells on it.
Yeah.
I Yeah, they had a bell thing put on top.
This is something that happened during the session when Suzuki Roshi died. Uh,
Yeah.
the part that I was up in the kitchen, see, we had little jobs, and I was in the kitchen helping Debbie Madison. And then at a certain point, she said, "Everyone's supposed to go to the Zendo. You should go to the Zendo right now." So I thought, fine. It's like there are all these rules and schedules and things. So I just did. I didn't think it was weird. I just thought, fine, I'll go to the Zendo. I didn't think about it. And people were, because there were more people sitting in the session than were in the Zendo. They're sitting in the hallway and also that other room in the basement. So
Yeah.
people couldn't fit in there if they were sitting cross-legged. You had to sit standing up next to each other in order to fit everybody into the room. So everyone was standing up, and I just went over to where I was
Right.
sitting, and stood about where I was sitting, and then I don't remember very much waiting or what that was like. I just stood there, and I didn't think about what was going on. I just did what you're supposed to do. And then Richard Baker came in. What I remember is he said that he told us Suzuki Roshi died. He told us that they came to get him as soon as he made the rounds and hit the 3 bells after doing the Jundo in the beginning of the first Zazen. And people came and said he's going. And then he said, "I think we can continue Suzuki Roshi's way in this country." And that was a very big thing to me. That it was kind of like, I think that's part of why people were so loyal to Richard, because it's sort of like now we have this thing on our shoulders right now. We didn't know that, but we have it now, And for me, and I think for other people too, it was a sense of responsibility. Okay, now what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? I remember also that we
Yeah.
chanted the Heart Sutra in English, which up until then we've been mostly doing it in Japanese. But we chanted it. We did do it in English some, but he said we're going to chant it in English, which we did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I can remember of what he said and what happened. I remember people were crying. I started crying too. During the chanting, I started crying. The other thing that happened in that sesshin is separate from Suzuki Roshi and Baker Roshi, was that I was sharing a room. There was somebody there, I don't know who it was. It was a woman who'd been to Japan and was a senior person, and she was sharing a room with me and another young woman who was come down from Canada, who had a shaved head. And so we were in she wasn't ordained. She just had wanted to do it because she thought she was serious. So we all just slept in the room. And around the 3rd or 4th day, I think it was maybe the 4th, the one woman had been just lying in bed, the person from Canada, very still. And so I went over to her and I said, "Listen, I know that it seems like you're sick, and I know it's okay. It's not against the rules for me to go downstairs and make you some tea, because one time I got sick in a session, and someone did it for me, so I can do this. Now just tell me what kind of tea you want. They got all these different kinds of teas." And she didn't look at me. She was just very still with her eyes open. And then she pulled back the blanket. The thing was covering her. Are you ready? She had done really big time self-harm. It was, she self-harm. She had torn open her arm. When she moved her hand, I could see the muscles moving inside her arm. And she also had done a wound in her chest. I was very shocked. Fortunately,
Wow.
thank God, this other woman was in the room, and she said, "You go on talking. I'll go get help. Thank God. I don't even know what I would have done. I didn't live at Zen Center. I guess I would have just gone out in the room and try to find someone in the hall to help, but then you don't want to leave someone who's harmed themselves that badly. You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do while you're out of the room? So
that is really something.
Yeah, this was a big deal. So then,
wow. I never heard that. I can't believe something that extreme happened that I never heard about.
Yeah, I guess other people didn't talk about it that much.
And we didn't know anything about self-harm then.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I was aware was even happening.
Yeah.
Like the most serious self-harm I ever heard of.
It was
Good
big.
Lord.
So should I go on with what happened next?
Yeah.
So this other woman who was like the senior person went out, and Richard Baker came in, and we were sitting on the floor, and he's a big guy, and he was in full robes with an okesa, so it's like he looked very big, and looked up, and he looked at the young woman and he said, you need attention. You need medical attention. I can't do that, but we will have people will come and help you. And I saw people say this about Richard Baker, that he's very good in emergency situations. And I think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like right there, I was very impressed. Then he had to go, and then Yvonne and Steve Weintraub came. And I had sort of been talking to the woman a little bit. We're talking about, she would say sentences that weren't related to things, but we would just try to keep talking a little. And then I was just going to go to sleep, but then I thought, no, I should go to the hospital too. So I sort of got out of my sleeping bag, and I went to the hospital. Steve Weintraub and Yvonne and I went to the hospital. And I was sitting in the back seat with the woman, and I was trying to sort of continue the conversation, but it just didn't work. I'm not experienced with that. I didn't know what, you know what I mean? I was just trying to talk a little bit. She was talking about her period or something, so I brought that up again, but she didn't want to. So then we got to the hospital, and we went to San Francisco General, and Yvonne, I guess Yvonne is used to this kind of thing. She had that role of taking care of people who were in trouble, And
right. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's great. I'm just going to do a little detour on Yvonne. What I think is great about Yvonne, all the times I asked her for help, whether it was psychological or physical or whatever it was, she never treated me like I was a lower form of life. She always treated me like I was just like her, only, I'll tell you about this or that, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, I brought it up.
Yeah, the psychic, and, God, I can't remember her name now. And, very well-known psychic. I actually have an interview with her on Ann Armstrong.
Oh,
Cute. She told Yvonne that, she said Yvonne astral traveled to automobile accidents when she was sleeping.
Holy cow! Yeah. No, I talked about Yvonne just the other day. I guess it was last Friday. We had a meeting of this chaplain training, and I said, well, there was this person named Yvonne Rand, and she made me feel like I had my dignity, even when I was asking about something, desperately, because I didn't know what to do, and we were all talking about how important that was, not to raise yourself up because you're helping somebody,
Right.
Oh, by the way, have you read this book called How Can I Help by Ram Dass? Or Can I Help?
Oh.
Let's see, what is it? I have it right here. How Can I Help?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a terrific book. Anyway,
yeah, right.
That's what we were talking about. Okay, so I mentioned it in the hospice thing, that this is the person I saw who could do it, and how important it was for me just to feel like I wasn't some jerk or something, she was just helping me. That's all. So we got to the hospital, and I had to keep reminding myself that this person, I kept looking at her. She was lying on maybe a gurney or a doctor's bed or something, and she had these injuries. And I kept thinking, oh, she must have been in a car accident. She must have been attacked on the street, And I realized, no, she did this to herself. This was very hard for me to believe. Then she stayed in the hospital, I think, for a week or so, and her parents came down from Canada and picked her up. Then later I talked to Rich.
I want to say one thing. What I'm reminded of is something I'd forgotten till you tell me this story is women who shaved their heads as a,
Showing that they care.
like
Yeah.
that, as a sort of practice thing. I'm talking about here doing it on their own, not as part of being ordained or something. Generally, it was an indication of they needed some sort of help or some sort of problem. Anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Go on.
Okay, so so she was in the hospital, and I went back to session, and then I felt sort of guilty. Like, why didn't I mean? I saw her lying in bed, totally immobile, and I didn't, do something earlier. I mean, she was kind of unusual. I'd never seen anybody who was just sort of frozen in bed. And so I talked to Richard Baker, and he said, "So you feel kind of guilty?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I am too." He said that he was in Zen Center with Ginny Baker before the session, and Ginny saw the young woman and said to him, "Keep an eye on her." She felt, just from seeing her, felt like, "Hey, keep an eye on her." And he said, "But I couldn't do that, because so much happened, because Suzuki, she died." And stuff. He didn't say that, but just, he wasn't able to keep an eye on her. I am very, very, because of that experience, I'm very, very glad. At least I'm in Vipassana now, but before you go to a retreat, there's a whole questionnaire about, have you had a traumatic experience within the last couple of years? Are you in psychotherapy? Do you take, medication to improve your state of mind? I don't know how they say it, psychotropic, I think. Anyway, they ask you all this stuff before you go to the retreat so that people have some idea of, how you are and what's happening. I think that I was so happy when I saw that. I don't know if they do that in Zen or not, but I think it's a great thing to do.
Who knows what they do these days? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the sort of thing that was instituted, but it would depend on the group and the person and the teacher. But there was something like, I've done Vipassana retreats here in Bali.
Yeah.
And there was something like that we had to fill out. And there's teachers that don't want you to take any medicine like that while you're in it. And there's ones that insist that you continue it. I mean, it's sort of, remember that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that happened at Zen Center and other places where someone is there as a guest student or for a session, and they feel so good, they usually take some antidepressants, but they feel so good they stop taking it, and then, bad things happen, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, not always bad things happen.
Okay, not always bad things happen. I guess I'm thinking of the negative.
Sometimes people learn they don't have to be taking.
That's great.
That stuff.
Well, that's a very happy thing.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, when Elon and my younger son had some problems, everybody was insisting he has to take his meds and do that, and she and I were both against that, and so was Clay, and we supported him in that, and he got out of what he was into fine.
Oh, good.
But there's this whole thing about you got to be on your meds and thing. And it's crazy. And Elin had experienced that too when she was younger. Yeah, there's two sides to that. The wonders of modern chemistry have helped a lot of people, but sometimes I think there might be too much use of it, but case by case, I don't know. I know when I have a friend that had a very serious event happen in his life, so that he was arrested, and this is in Canada, and it was very extreme, and but it really wasn't harmful. but it was like he realized when he went to court, he's smart. Or they're trying to determine if he's sane or not.
Yeah.
He made it clear to the court it was a criminal act, not a that he broke the law and he knew it and he shouldn't have done it. All right, and not that he's mentally disturbed and needs to be on drugs. He said because they can force you then to take them.
Oh God!
And
I didn't know that.
And
you.
keep taking them.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you can get in the mental health system for something that would be against the law, and they can like keep you there. It's very hard to get out. Yeah.
Did the right thing.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean the wrong thing and then the right thing about the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But I have seen like E.L. Hazelwood. I don't know if you remember him. He would periodically, he had serious mental problems, and he would periodically just totally lose it. And he was at Tassajara, and he was told he couldn't stay at Tassajara unless he took Thorazine.
Oh.
Which he told me was like having cement poured into his head.
Yeah, I've heard that's
and
very
there was
heavy
actually,
stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was what they used to take people off acid, which they shouldn't have done because it was better for people to, and this was what was told to me by a doctor who dealt with bad acid trips. He said it's best for people to work it out in the trip, and it goes away than just to cut it off abruptly like that. He said that caused trouble too. Anyway, Thorazine was very, very heavy, brutal drug, antipsychotic. And there was one point at which I saw senior students at Tassajara holding him down and force feeding him in the road his Thorazine.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think that happened once, and they were going, "This is uncool."
Yeah, quite.
But he did end up doing things like burning himself, throwing himself in front of cars, and ended up in Napa mental hospital, and finally killed himself.
Oh no!
Oh, Yeah. Oh, he was great. I loved E.L. He was at Green Gulch, and he was getting like a check, a serious check, like from back then, $1,300 a month, and he was to give it to Zen Center for him to be able to live there, and he took one of them and flew to Rio.
That's the man. All right, good idea.
Yeah. Oh, he was something. But it was sad.
Yeah.
His mental problems finally got the best of him.
Oh my goodness.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about something that happened in Japan. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, tell us what happened in Japan, but then you should tell us how you ended up going to Japan, how your life led into that direction. But go on and tell us.
So I was in a temple, and I had to go to the immigration department. And so I got on the train.
In where? What city?
I was in Fukui Prefecture, and I was in Oigun, which is near Obama. I was in a temple connected with Hoshinji, where my teacher was, but I wasn't in that temple. I was in a women's.
Which teacher? And there's two Haradas in Obama. Which one?
Harada Sekkei.
You were with Sekkei.
Yeah, Sekkei, yeah.
Harada Sekkei. Yeah.
Okay. So I got on the train. I had to go to I can't remember where, Nagoya maybe. I was wearing samue, and a Japanese man came up to me and said, "Well, where's your temple?"
Samaway, incidentally, are monks work, are casual
Yeah, yeah.
attire. All right, go on.
So I was wearing that, and a Japanese man came up to me and said, "What temple are you with, and what school is it in and stuff?" And I said it was, Soto Shu and everything. And then he said, "Well, I'd like to practice my English with you. Can I sit together?" I said, "Sure." So he told me that he was a doctor, and he had been in America some of the time. After he became a doctor, he'd been in America doing something. I'm not sure what. I mean, something in terms of a doctor, but I don't know what. And then he came. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Okay. So then he came back to Japan, and he told me that when he was in medical school, he and several of his friends in medical school wanted to drop out of medical school because of something that was going on with a particular professor. He didn't say what, but it was something very bad. And of course, it was a huge crisis because he wanted to be a doctor. And also in Japan, it's a bigger deal if you drop out of medical school. I mean, you can't be trusted. So it was a huge crisis. He didn't know what to do. So he went to, at Eiheiji, you can go there for like 24, 36 hours and do what the monks do and sit zazen and stuff. And so he did that. And then when he didn't tell people what was going on. He just got there. Then they said, "There's a really well-regarded Zen master who's visiting Eiheiji now, and would you like to have tea with him?" And he said, "Sure." So they had tea together. And again, he didn't talk about what was going on with him. He just had tea with him. And then he said to me, "After I was at Eiheiji for that short time, and after I had tea with the Zen teacher, I was able to return to medical school and complete medical school, and now I'm a doctor." And I was very touched by it. At a certain point, I was talking to, Andrea Thatch? Maybe you don't. She's at Berkeley Zen Center. She's a priest and an MD. She's a great person. Anyway, I was talking to her, and I said, I don't care about having kensho or something. I want to be like the Zen master at Eiheiji, where someone could have contact with me the way he had contact with the Zen teacher, and then he was able to be clear about what he wanted to do and go do it. It wasn't like psychotherapy. They didn't talk about what was going on, but somehow the teacher, through his presence, helped this young man resolve the crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd also say that the man resolved its own problem because he was with an authority figure, a Zen master who he revered because he had very high
standing,
idealistic ideas about him.
I see.
And it could have been entirely his doing, and it could have been they could have brought in an actor. It said, "This is a Zen master," and we go, "Oh, this changed my life."
Yeah.
I have a driver, an assistant here, who I took to a healer and a meditation teacher. He's does a Vipassana sort of thing and healing, and he combines some Balinese stuff. He's Chinese Balinese. Anyway, I took Nyoman to him, and Nyoman was just shaking going in to meet this great man. And he sees Murtada. He sees people on Mondays. Not with COVID around, but Nyoman went in, and Murtada, he scans you, right?
Yeah.
And he told Nyoman, he said, there's really nothing wrong with you. It's just smoking. He said, if you stop smoking, that stuff won't go. And Nyoman never smoked a cigarette since then.
Wow.
So did Murtada have any power, or was it just Nyoman needed to have some person that he saw as a revered person tell him that, and that just did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can give other examples of that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it could be that the person he met did have that marvelous touch that they could inspire somebody
Yeah.
through just their presence and being there. And, it's really hard to know.
Yeah. Since we weren't there, we don't know.
Anyway, it's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One helpful thing Richard Baker said once, he was giving a lecture, and he said, you people are getting so worried about doing Zen right, and getting real nervous about it. He said, but when Buddhism comes to another country, it takes a while for it to develop in the new country. And he said when it came from India to China, it took about 400 years before you hear about the really good Zen teachers. And he said, we might not be that good. We might never really be that great, but we're making a place for the people who will come after us. And
that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It helps me because sometimes when I'm at Spirit Rock, I meet people and I feel like the main thing is, sit a lot and have some deep experience and then have some amazing conversation with a great teacher, and that's what we're doing. And the idea that you're making something, is part of it. You know what I mean? To me, it sort of widens what you're doing. You're not just saying, oh, I'm going to have this great experience. I'm going to read this story, and it's going to just be like that. That's what I want to be, that you could be doing something else, like making something for people,
Yeah.
I actually wrote a letter to Richard, I don't know when, maybe a couple of years ago or a year ago. I just said I remember this, and it helped me because it helped me sort of widen the view. It's not just
that's
narrow,
nice.
goal-oriented. I've got to get this.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm in touch with him a lot, and I might well remember to tell him that. It's always nice to tell him that.
Yeah.
Something he said or did help somebody.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
That way. Yeah. It's good to hear it.
Yeah, I didn't go. Some people go out to Colorado when he was in Colorado and talk to him and stuff. I didn't really feel like doing that, but when something occurs to me that I remember helpful that he did, I read a letter and say, you did this, you said this, and this is how it helped me. That seems to me that's the way I do it. It's just I remember something good, I write it down and send him a letter.
Yeah, he's there now in Colorado.
Oh, he is. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Crestone. He's there half the year and half the year in Germany.
Oh, why did somehow I had this idea that he was mostly in Germany, but I guess I had the wrong idea.
About 50-50. And he is, good Lord, how is he now? He's probably 86.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's 86, and he is just going strong.
Good.
And I really enjoy relating with him. He's, Michael Katz and I are very close.
Mm-hmm.
One thing Michael and I talked about once, and he was the literary agent for Zen Center, and many people like Jack Kornfield and
my.
Zillion. He really helped get the whole publishing thing going at Zen Center. Although Ed Brown's publishing it and Zen Mind Beginner's Mind were before him, and they're still the most successful things. I don't know, maybe the Green's Cookbook buys with him, but which is a deal he got, and especially getting money for the people who are writing it and making the books, and not just them being like work for hire. So the institution gets everything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, one time we had talked about people in our lives who, without having met them, been around them, everything would be different. And Richard Baker's definitely one of those people. Without him, there's just a few people you can say definitely just an extreme, I don't know where I'd be or what I'd be doing if it hadn't been for Richard Baker. Richard and Suzuki, and I don't know, it's my wives. they've been critical. Anyway, go on.
Let's see. What am I going to say next? Yeah, I guess I go back to the United States prior to Japan. And I stayed at Zen Center for a while after things fell apart, and I didn't sit zazen all the time. There was a point.
So things fell apart. You're talking about 1983.
I am, yes.
When Richard came to an impasse with the students and leadership and everything, and he left.
Yeah. I remember there was a certain point where people said the board wanted people to know that there was a crisis. The board was confident that they could handle it. Zen Center could handle it. And that was on Saturday. And on Sunday, each board member was going to meet with one or two people at a time, starting with the most senior people and going down, and would tell them what they were doing. So Steve Weintraub met with me and Catherine Thanos. And we met in the tea room, which was where Oksan, where I had tea classes, but Oksan wasn't there. And he said that there was a problem and that Richard Baker had a relationship with a woman, and so now there was a crisis, or that was the problem. And Catherine Thanos said, he's had relationships with people, he's had liaison with people outside of his marriage, for a while. Why are you having a board meeting about it? And then I thought that was pretty good. And then Steve said, well, the husband of the woman wrote a letter to the board, and then I don't remember what he said, the thing of threat to the financial stability or whatever it was. I don't remember what he said, but he said the husband of the woman is very upset and wrote a letter to the board, and the board was forced to meet.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Well, he threatened to sue Zen Center. He's a very powerful person.
Yeah.
And he was also like Richard's best friend.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, it's often billed as, this long affair they had. It was something that happened over a weekend.
Yeah.
It was like the beginning and the end were all weekend.
Oh.
And, people, I remember I was talking to Richard once, and I was telling him, how, maybe, I don't know, maybe when Elon and I got together, that I just became absolutely useless. I was like a transitional director of Green Gulch, and I just, and he said, oh, yeah, we'll destroy ourselves for women. And
yeah, wow. Well, I could tell you.
But it wasn't just that. There was a whole bunch of things. And,
yes.
It had become an imperial, it was the imperial period.
Yeah.
And I loved it. A lot got done, and there was a lot of great action around Zen Center. But it got a little ivory tower-ish there, and it had to be adjusted. There was too much spending. There was, the power balance between the abbot and the board and the students. Everything, it was just sort of off, and it was just natural. An institution would balance then. It's actually what happened at Zen Center is a very normal thing to happen in institutions. The good thing is that he kept going.
Yeah.
And, after a serious period of difficulty. And but he kept going and starting his Dharma Sangha, trying different things. And a psychic I knew, I was very close with, a great psychic. Once I said, all I had to do was say something to him, like this. I said, hey, tell me about Richard. And he went, well, here's somebody, he didn't know who he was talking about. He said, oh, here's somebody who can be knocked down 3 times. and get up every time.
Yeah. Okay.
And Fred was he'd been a wrestler and a
Hmm.
boxer, so that's
Yeah,
the
he
way
knew
he
how
saw
he
it.
knew about it. Um,
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting comment.
yeah, I
Uh,
have something to say about these things, if it's okay.
yeah,
I was at Nancy
yeah.
Wilson Ross's, and I came back in I think February of
Oh, were you one of
1983.
the people that helped
Yeah,
Nancy?
and before I came back,
All right. Well, we should say who. Wait a minute. Let me say who Nancy was. Nancy Wilson Ross was a very well-known writer. She wrote about Buddhism. She was like an East Coast society woman, sort of, and she was a very close friend of Zen centers, of Richard Baker's. She loved. She knew Suzuki Roshi, right?
I don't
Nancy
know. I
did.
don't know if she did actually.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. But anyway, she was very key with helping in fundraising and East Coast contacts and this and that. And Zen Center sent people, when Richard was abbot, to live with her, to learn from her, and to help her. So you were one of them.
Yeah. Before I came back in February 1983, Nancy started talking to me, and she told me that Richard Baker was in a relationship with, now I've blocked on her name, a student who was at Zen Center. Maybe we'll just say a student at Zen Center. Yeah,
Right,
okay.
right.
And
Who had been
yeah,
there with
yeah.
Nancy, too.
And
Yeah.
she was very worried because Suzuki Roshi on the East, is it Suzuki Roshi on the East Coast, had recently gotten a lot of trouble by having a lot of sexual relationships. And she was very worried. She said,
Wait a
not
minute. Wait
Suzuki,
a minute.
not Suzuki, somebody else. Excuse me, I said the wrong
You
name.
mean Nancy back in Nancy? No, Edo Shimano she's
Edo
talking
Shimano.
about.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
in New York Zen Studies.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, Edo's trip was so extreme. There's no
yeah,
comparing it to
yeah.
anything else.
Anyway, she said, Dick will discredit himself. And then she knew because I cared about Tasahara, she said, it will discredit Tasahara. So she asked me to go talk to him when I got back and explain this to her. So I tried to,
All
but
right.
it
Good
didn't really
luck.
work.
Oh, tell me.
I just made an appointment and I explained, that I didn't, that Nancy had talked to me about these things and she was very concerned because of the thing going on the East Coast. And she wanted me to tell you this, and he sort of didn't take it very seriously. And then I guess soon after that, things kind of blew up.
Wow, that is very interesting. That is very interesting. Incidentally, that woman
Hmm.
who, you know, people talk about him as if, I've read it, and, he's sleeping with all his women students. No, there was one
Yeah.
woman student he had a long relationship with,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
I knew. Yeah.
and she and he are close. Are she wrote something.
Well, I
God,
read
have I
it.
put that
I Yeah,
online?
I read it online, so it was somewhere
Did I
online.
put that
Yeah,
on
you
Q?
must put it on Q. Yeah.
Yeah. She wrote something that said, "Hey, quit telling me I should be angry and I should be this and this and that."
Hmm.
I don't remember exactly how I said it. That's something that happened.
Hmm.
And maybe it was uncool and this and that, but uh, I I like him. I respect
Hmm.
him. They're in touch, and anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Uh, so, but that to me, that is really something that you went and talked to him about that. Well, he did get some warnings, and there was one point at which there were some board members told him that he should stop his relationship with
My.
my
Yeah.
unit.
Hmm.
Why? He and his wife were, you know, they didn't want to, I don't know. Mayumi and he were close. They're still close. Is it, you know, people gravitate to each other. They're attracted to each other. And boy, I'll tell you, being being a big shot in the spiritual world, yeah, it really, if you want to do that, it, you gotta in America
Hmm.
anyway. You really can't play around because America has very strict um, like social imperatives
Hmm. Hmm.
about that sort of thing. So you'll just get in trouble. That's the way I look at it. The way I look at it is, you know, you get in trouble, you won't have peace of mind,
Hmm.
and not whether it's right or wrong.
Hmm.
You know, you're not going to get away with it probably. And anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, a complicated subject.
Mm. Mm.
But it's very interesting. I have with Nancy. Wow.
Yeah. Well, she
And
was
you
really
and
concerned
Richard.
about him. I mean, Nancy was not a perfect human being. She had her faults, but I think she sincerely was concerned about how Buddhism was taking root in America. I think that was sincere, you know, and that was part of what was
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, 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 indeed. You know, some people really loved being with her. Dan and Deborah.
Hmm.
Did she have you drinking cocktails with her in the late afternoon?
I had kind of a hard time. I mean, I thought she was an interesting person. I did, I think later in life, uh, she did get into some anti Semitic stuff, which was very difficult for me. And then I would talk to her about it, and then she'd always apologize to me when she would say something. She said, "I know this hurts you very deeply. I'm sorry." You know, but that was difficult for me.
Wow, what sort of anti-Semitic stuff?
Oh, I can't remember. I mean, it was not like anything I'd ever heard before. I was kind of like, "Huh? You are doing this?" You know. Um,
Doing what?
saying things,
Saying what?
saying negative stuff. I can't even remember. It's not. I really don't remember what it
Uh,
was. You know, it was just kind of like what, you know. And somebody did
oh,
talk to me like a couple of days before I was going. They said, you know, she says these anti-Semitic things, and you just have to let go. And I thought, how can I let go? Are you kidding? You know. So when I went, I just found ways to talk to her and make bridges. I didn't try to get competitive or arguing. I would just talk about my friends. You know, they're going for a trip to Israel, and then the kids don't want to get on the airplane. No, sort of funny stories, about my friends. And then she would say, "Oh, I'm
huh,
sorry." I did it more on. I'm just talking about people I know and what they do, not things they do, how
huh.
they solve their problem with their little kid who wanted the teddy bear, and stuff like that. And then she would,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very skillful of you. Oh, that's
I
interesting.
think
What's your uh, background in terms of religion and
oh, my
that?
parents described themselves as polite agnostics. They were not
Uh huh.
nasty about religion, but like if my mother happened to be in a church service somewhere, she would stand up straight and sing the song, the hymn, and I mean, they would follow the rules exactly to show that they were respectful, but they were not into it.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I went to a
yeah, yeah.
Unitarian Sunday school for about 5 years. Uh-uh.
Ah, there you go. There
It
you go.
started out
Uh-huh.
talking about polytheism. We learned about these different polytheism things, and then they started getting towards monotheism, like that was an improvement. And I didn't think it was an improvement. I thought the gods all around us is better. And then my parents let me stop going. I was glad.
Oh, that's great.
I think I want to say something about this thing about, I brought up something about Nancy. I want to say that I think it happened, someone was asking me because people who went earlier did not have that experience with her. And I think it had something to do with returning to childhood things as you get older, that she would always say, it's from my childhood. I'm really sorry. It's from my childhood. So I think it was something like just a turning towards childhood as she got older. I don't think it was, I don't know, but it seemed like I've spoken to other people who went to spend time with her earlier and they did not have that experience. So I think it was something that came up later.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But it's also interesting that she's apologizing for it when it's pointed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also interesting that it was pointed out. She was a rather haughty person that you had to be careful. I mean, I would relate with her when she came to the West. But I tend to treat everybody the same. And so I didn't treat her as an elevated person. And that was all right. But I can remember her saying, "All right, David, that was very nice, but that's enough now."
Well, she had a very close relationship with Richard Baker. And at a certain point, she asked me, I don't know what it was. It was something like, hey, I ever asked you about this? Don't tell him the truth. Tell him this. And so then I was going to the grocery store, and I went to a payphone and called up Zen Center because I was horrified. I was going there because I was employed by Zen Center, and she was asking me to lie to my teacher. So I called up Zen Center, and I said, I don't remember what I said, but, I need to talk to someone because, stuff is happening here. And they got Reb Anderson on the phone. And Reb said something very helpful. He said, now, the relationship between Richard and Nancy is archetypal. He said sometimes it's like a mother-son, sometimes it's like lovers. He said, I don't mean that they are lovers. And I say, I know. But it's like it's I guess all I can say is archetypal. I mean, I understood what he meant. And I was so happy that somebody understood this. It's not an ordinary human relationship. It's something, if there are past lives or something, it's very deep. And he said, so if you're in between these two people with this incredible, intense archetypal thing going on, of course, you're not going to be very comfortable all the time. And that might sound strange, but to me, it was so comforting to hear that somebody really understood something about it,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, please continue. Well, wait a minute. You were talking about the breakup. So Suzuki died at the end of 71. The breakup's in 83. What did you do between those?
Let's see.
12-year period.
Okay. I went to Tatsahara in January of 72. So that was soon after Suzuki died. And I went for the spring practice period, part of the summer, and the fall practice period. Tatsahara really changed. The winter practice period was still, Katagiri Roshi was in charge of it. And he was leading the practice period. And it just had a really different flavor from the fall. In the fall, many of the people who'd been there in the spring left, and a lot of the people who came down were people who had become, close to Richard Baker in the city, in San Francisco. And so I hope I can find some adjectives to describe it, but it was very different. It was a big change. Katagiri, one of the things he did was he had 3 sessions, which usually are just one at the end. But he decided if we're there, well, let's do it, And I heard he got in some trouble because you're supposed to spend some of the time during the spring practice period getting ready for the summer. I guess, working on the guest cabins and things. So we didn't do as much as we were supposed to do. But he was great, God. Okay, I'll tell you something that happened. I was there, and it was very, very difficult for me. There are all these rules and schedule, and people weren't very friendly then. The senior people were not very nice at all. Some of them were nice, but quite a few of them weren't friendly at all. And they seemed sort of rigid. And then my father wrote me this letter saying my grandmother was not well, and she was in pain, and she didn't see why she should live any longer. And my father wrote, we just don't know what to say when she says this. Then, suddenly, it was during a session, I think, I got this experience, a lot of people have this, where you're very thankful for things, but on all dimensions. You're thankful for the way the sun rests on the edge of a leaf, and you're thankful for your fifth grade teacher who really changed your life. Like you get it all at once. Wham, 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 all the time. So I went in and I talked to Katagiri Roshi about this. And so I described all this stuff, and he said, "Your grandmother, she is a living or she is a dead?" And I said, "Well, she's alive, but we don't know how much longer." Oh, I said also, I found that I talked to her a little bit about my grandmother, and I said, I feel like she can be kind of like an internal guide for me how to survive at Tassajara. Her attitude could help me. If I could take some of her attitudes, I could survive at Tassajara better. And so I explained all this to Mr. Katagiri, and he said, "Oh, your grandmother, she is a living or she is a dead?" I said, "Well, she's living, but we don't know how much longer." And he said, "I think you should, after the session, you should go see your grandmother. Tell her everything you've told me while she is still well enough to see who you really are." And so after session, I talked to Jed Lindy, who's the director, and explained this, and he said, "Oh, no."
Whoa. Jed was the director?
Yeah. And so
Is that right?
Yeah.
I forgot.
So I explained all this, and he said, no, it must be a mix-up. His English is not really great. He's really improving, but, it's a language mix-up. He would never say that someone should leave Tassajara in the middle of a practice period, but I'll check with him. So he came back, and he said, I checked with him, and he really did say that. So I went and saw my grandmother, who was very happy to see me, and that was nice. It was very short, but it was good.
Huh. That's very interesting. That is quite unusual.
Yeah.
He's Katagiri would do unusual things sometimes.
Yeah.
That is to send somebody away from a practice period to go visit their grandmother. Wow.
I know.
Pretty good.
1 in a million.
Yeah.
We also had...
So,
yeah?
Go on.
Oh, during both those practice periods, we had people from Chogyam Trungpa's disciples were there. The first one was...
Right.
Kungadawa was there in the winter practice period. He had to leave early. I think he had a pretty tough time. And then in the fall practice period, there were 2 women, and I can't remember. One was my roommate. We shared a cabin, and the other one was in the cabin next to us.
Fran?
Yeah. Fran was the lady next to us who was older, and the other person had a Tibetan name, Kungadawa. No, that's Kungadawa was someone else. No. I don't remember her name.
It's all right.
Yeah. They were great, because they were more experienced. They're the people who started what is now Karma Choling. It was Tail of the Tiger in Vermont.
Right.
They got sent over to do it. And when I was going to leave, at the end of the practice period, they said, "Well, what are your plans?" And I was going to go to Berkeley, and I had these great ambitions and everything, in terms of sessions and how I was going to do all this zazen and stuff. And they said, we talk to people when they leave Tail of the Tiger, and we ask them the same kind of thing we're asking you. Because people often, when they're in the practice period, they have an idea of what they're going to do, and they really mean that they're going to do it. But then they get out there, they have to find an apartment, they have to get a job, there's all kinds of things that are complicated, and they don't end up doing what they said they're going to do, and then they feel disappointed in themselves, like they haven't really done what they're supposed to do. And that isn't right, because, you have a picture of it here, but when you get out there, it's different. So we don't want you to have that experience. That's why we're talking to you. I thought it was so sweet.
Who's saying that? Who's saying that?
Fran and the other woman.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I just wanted to make sure it sounded, and then I thought, wait a minute. All right, go on. That's interesting. All right.
I just thought it was really
Yeah.
sweet that they said that to me. Just
Yeah, that's good advice.
yeah,
Very good advice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. So,
So then,
um,
what did I do next?
yeah.
I was in Berkeley, and I went to the Berkeley Zen Center, and Ed Brown was there with Meg, and Meg's baby, their baby was born there in the Zendo building,
In the
Lycan.
in the building that had the Zendo, right?
Yeah, it's in one of the rooms downstairs. I had come over to borrow a lawnmower, and someone said, "Ann, come in here. All the women are here. Meg had her baby." So I came in. The baby was, little Lycan was just, maybe an hour old.
Right. That's the day that Diane Goldschlag and I got married.
Oh.
Right after Diane wanted to miss the wedding because she was supposed to be with Meg for the birth. And I said, Diane, there's hundreds of people have come for the wedding and our families, and you can't miss it. Mm-hmm. And she went, all right. So right after the wedding and the reception, we zoomed over to Berkeley to be with Meg and Ed. Mm-hmm. And Ed was cooking up the afterbirth for them to eat.
Oh, I think I left before that. I just sort of came in for a short time because I wasn't exactly invited. Yeah. Someone at the door said, come in. Everyone's here. All the women are here, So I came in, but I didn't feel like I could stay a long time. I just stayed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
guess about a year after about a year in Berkeley, I moved to San Francisco Zen Center. I had sat the first session at Green Gulch, and I felt very inspired by it. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember feeling like, yeah, okay, I'm going to help. I think it was, again, that feeling of, I think we can continue Tsukiroshi's way in this country, something like that, So I felt inspired, and I came to Zen Center. And then, after a while, Joshin-san showed up. That was great. I love Joshin-san.
Oh, yeah, the sewing teacher.
Yeah.
Sewing, the nun from, actually, she was from the, she'd been a student of Kodo Sawaki's, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, and she was missing part of, I think, the fourth finger on the left hand. That's the way I see it. That she'd cut off to show her sincerity when she changed teachers.
Yeah. I remember at Tatsahara, somebody said, hey, did you ever notice Joshin-san's finger? There weren't telephones at Tatsahara, but I swear to God, everybody knew this within 5 seconds. Everybody heard it and everybody knew it, I never noticed it. But
there was a telephone at Tatsahara.
Well, there was a telephone at Tatsahara, but between the people at Tatsahara, it was not like we texted each other about it. We were the word spread just the way if you did the group text.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she taught how to make raksus and okeses and things. She was the second one. Yoshida, who we called Yoshida Roshi, came, different lineage. Yoshida's was Hashimoto lineage. Which Hashimoto was Katagiri's real Dharma teacher, not his master, but the one he got his understanding from. Great Hashimoto, quite well respected. Yeah, and so with the influence of the two of them, sewing our own raksus and okeses became a big deal. This is all from Katagiri. It's not from Suzuki. So people at Zen Center think that's what Zen people do. Somebody was telling me, oh, so-and-so didn't sew their robe. It's like that nullifies
that. Fake.
I said, well, actually, it's really an unusual thing that,
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I got to Japan, some people seem to think people who sew their robes, some of the people are sort of conceited about it, and they didn't like that. They weren't like automatically impressed, that we sew our robes, But yeah,
yes.
what I was going to tell you about,
Good point. Good point.
yeah,
Good point.
later at Tassajara, when I went back, Isan was the Ino, and it was the first time he'd done this. I mean, he'd been Tenzo, but he didn't have a lot of self-confidence in this Ino job. And
To be the person who runs
the Zendo,
in charge of the meditation hall,
yeah,
ceremonies, discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
yeah.
he didn't have that much self-confidence. So I thought, what we'll do, I'll make him a rakusu, and that will give him self-confidence. I don't know why I thought that. And so I secretly made this rakusu for him with the help of all these other people. And I think I even made up a fake name. I'm making it for Fujiwara Sensei or something, because it wasn't a blue rakusu, it was a black rakusu. So, and everybody, all these people were helping me, and I thought, Isan knows. I mean, everybody knows stuff at Tassajara. He's just being nice and pretending. Oh, and I had to go in and measure the straps on his rakusu because he's very long-waisted, And I said, but I think Isan would go for a strapless, Anyway.
That's funny.
So then, when you did that, you had the little envelope, and on the outside you'd stitch in big stitches, the name of the person, your name if you were sending it in, and then you give it to Richard Baker. So I talked to Richard about it and asked him if it was okay, and he said, yeah, it's fine. So I put on the piece of paper, this rakusu is for Isan Dorsey, made by Ann Overton with the help of many people at Tassajara. I stitched that on. And then I was done, and I was going to bring it over to Richard's cabin, because you're supposed to put it in the cabin. So I put it inside a file folder, because I was a doan, and I was you have file folders with all the ceremonies and stuff. So this is safe.
Right.
And also, I didn't know where Isan was, but I was pretty sure the coast was clear. So I started stepping across the road of Tassajara, the one that goes over the bridge and down to all the cabins. Suddenly, Isan shows up out of nowhere. And he said, what's that? I said, oh, it's a file folder. No, what's in it? So I opened it, and he read the words on the piece of paper, and it was clear he had no idea about it. He was in shock, and he got really excited. He opened it up, and he wanted to put it on. I said, no, you have to stick it on your head first, Isan. Anyway, he put it on, and he was just mind blown. And so I said, I have to stick it over in the Roshi's cabin, He said, yeah. He was really, really amazed. And then he'd been in a staff meeting, a Rokuchiji meeting, and he had stepped out because he wasn't feeling well. And then later, Vanya told me that before, when he was in the staff meeting, he wasn't feeling well. He was just, and he said he wanted to step out for a little. He said he came back in after seeing the rakusu, and he was just like, he was fine. He felt great. So I was very happy about that.
It's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, lots of people did, a couple. Philip Whalen did some stitches on it. Well, lots of people put a few stitches into it.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Joshin-san made me an okeso.
No kidding. Wowie.
Yeah, I was Shuso head monk, and she surprised me with it for my Shuso ceremony.
That's a nice surprise. Wow.
Yeah.
That's going big time.
I mean, maybe I knew. I guess I knew beforehand or something, but still, anyway.
When it really happened.
It was far better than the one I had.
Yeah.
Which I was, which was in the early Yoshida days made. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, Roshi wrote on it, and he wrote, Isan. That was what he wrote on the back. And then I asked, after Isan died, I asked Michael Janvold, well, what's happening with it? I can't remember what was happening, but I just didn't want it to be lost in a drawer somewhere. I wanted someone to wear it or put it somewhere, and somehow something was happening with it that sounded right to me, so that was fine.
Well, when Alan Marlowe died, Jeannie DePrima, who was very close with Alan, and with him when he died and everything. Their Roxu's Suzuki had made with sort of a matching poem.
Oh no!
And she wanted.
That's great.
She wanted. Yeah, I think that they might have both been ordained at the same time when she was like 14 and.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe no, when she was 13 and Alan was 45 or whatever he was then, and he was her stepfather, and Covancino said no, it has to be cremated with him.
Oh. Well, maybe that's what happened with this on thing. I don't know. I just remember I was satisfied with the answer. That's all I remember.
Yeah, but. Just because Covancino knew that, or some Japanese priest knew that, doesn't mean that that has been transferred and is honored. I actually have Betty Warren's old early Roxu that she got in. It wasn't a Roxu; it's a different type of thing. Yeah. It's like a strap that goes around the neck.
Oh, I think I've seen
that
those
she
things.
got in 1962.
Wow!
Or maybe I got a later Roxu. I don't know. I got a bunch of stuff at Betty's. It's with my archive stuff in San Rafael. And then, oh my God, I'm so totally into digital archives. I don't pay really much attention to anything else.
Oh yeah, physical stuff.
Yeah, physical world. Oh yeah. So between that, so there you are there at Tassar. You went back to Berkeley, and what happened between then and 83?
Okay.
You said you left soon after 83.
So then I went I was at the city and I just had odd jobs and, sad thoughts. And then I went to Green Gulch for the summer. I did childcare. It was very early. Everybody lived in trailers. I shared a room in the barn. There was no women's bathroom except in the office. So if you had the flu and you had to go to the toilet, you had to look okay because that was the public face of Green Gulch, And if you wanted to take a shower, if you didn't have a place with a shower, there were hours that men took the shower in the swimming pool area and women took the shower at other hours. Yeah. It was very simple.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing that happened in first time I was at Tassar in 72, I was surprised they didn't use paper towels. Everything was cleaned with rags. It really surprised me.
Huh.
And then when I went back, it was not. It was more, modern Western stuff. But anyway, so there.
What? We always used cloth. I don't remember using paper towels there. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, when I went back, they used them when I went back in 78, they started using them. I was very surprised. Oh, it's different.
Huh. Yeah.
And the experience I had at Tassar when I went back, it was when I made the Rakusu for Isan, and then later I became Ino. And I had the Ino for one practice period. One thing, I think it was Richard who explained this, I'm not sure who, but they said the director has, power of decision-making power that you don't have. However, in some ways, the Ino is the most powerful because you are modeling what's going on. How you do things has an effect on people. And the experience of being Ino really changed my life. When I went up in December for a break, Ulysses Lowry was working in the greengrocer. And I walked in and he said, "Hey, it's the new Tassara Ino. How's it going?" And I said, "Oh, Ulysses, I can divide my life from before I was Ino and since then." And he looked at me and he said, "Yes, that's the way it is." I was so glad someone understood this. because at the same time, people really wanted me to be on the board and be the secretary of Zen Center. And there's a lot of pressure on me to do this, to leave Tassajara and do this. And people said, you get to play with the big kids, it's really good, you should do this. But I felt like I couldn't leave, and so eventually they got Blanche to do that instead of me, to be on the board and do that thing. But it was, I can't even put it into words. I can't say any more words about it, but it was a very strong experience for me.
So you said you left Zen Center, after the sort of breakup with Richard Baker and all that in '83. So where'd you go? What happened?
I didn't leave exactly. I lived in an apartment across the street, and I didn't go to Zazen as much. But I wanted to stay to try to understand what happened, And at a certain point, we were in meetings, and a very new person said, hey, you know what? In the history of Buddhism, there must have been people going through what we're going through right now. There must have been people who were separated from their teachers, or people who didn't have a teacher. And so I asked Leslie James if we could be teachers for each other. And so we would meet from time to time and just talk to each other, to encourage each other. To tell you the truth, I think
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Thank you. I think it meant more to me than it did to her, but anyway, we did it for a while. And then when I was in Japan, when I was on a pilgrimage, I sent her some little things from the pilgrimage because I felt we're still, we're still teachers for each other. But I haven't done anything that much since then. But yeah. I just thought I have to try something,
Yeah. So you're living across the street from Zen Center. What were you doing?
Oh, I just got...
How did you support yourself?
Let's see. I had a job downtown at Golden Gate University, and it was in the student services department, which was great. It had all these students who legally can't work in America, but if you're a student, you can work a certain number of hours at the university. And so it was full of people from different countries, which I liked very much. And then after that, I worked at Saybrook Institute, which is a grad school for psychology. Mimi Manning worked there. And so I guess I'd helped her on a project, and then I started working there. And from there, I went to Japan.
Oh, and what made you go to Japan?
Well, somebody, I don't remember his name. I knew him at Zen Center, and he went to Japan and taught English. And he said to me, listen, you could do the same thing you're doing, only it would be easier if you did it in Japan. Because while I was at Saybrook Institute, I would get a certain amount of time off where I would make up on a different day, work longer, so I could do tea ceremony. I wanted to keep doing tea ceremony. And he said, these things you want to do, like zazen and tea and stuff, you can do them in Japan, but you can teach English, and the pay is high enough so you have time to go do these things. And also, you can do tea in a real tea room, You can, why not do it here? It's better than trying to do what you're trying to do in America. So I decided to go. And I was very afraid of going, and I decided, well, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Eiheiji, and I'm going to go to Rinso Inn. And after I do that, if it doesn't work out, I'll leave. But I'm going to go to those two places. And I did.
Yeah.
And then I felt like staying, and it worked out. I was just frightened,
So, where did you stay?
The person, what is her name? Priscilla, the person who was at the temple you were with in Okayama.
Oh, yeah. Chisan.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person. Very gracious, very kind, very supportive.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
She, there was an apartment that was hers or something. Anyway, people could stay there. I think for free.
Where?
In Kyoto. It was right near, it was in southern Kyoto near Miyoshinji. And so I stayed there, and then I can't remember her name. There was a woman she's Jodo priest, and she was head of a small temple in Sakyoku in Kyoto. She'd been at Zen Center, and then she rented out rooms at her temple, in part to support herself.
Sakyoku, that's by near where the Philosopher's Walk
Yeah.
is in the
Hmm.
Kinkaku. That's where I'd stay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
stayed
I
there.
love that area.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, Katrinka and I were in Japan when we came to Asia 8 years ago. We went to Japan for 10 weeks,
Hmm.
and we stayed.
10
We
weeks are
were
wonderful.
huh?
That's wonderful.
Yeah, to 8 weeks. 8 of them were 2 months was in Kyoto,
Hmm.
and the rest was traveling around and seeing people,
Hmm.
and loved it. We were a little. I don't know which direction it was. You know is that in Madagawa or something? That street that goes through
Yeah.
Sakyoku.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We were further away, but we could actually walk to Sakyoku from there. And my best friends. I don't know if you ever knew Jay and Kyoko
I think I remember them. I
and
think
Jake.
yeah. Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
remember them. Yeah.
yeah, they really marvelous people. They come here.
Oh, good.
They come before COVID. They come here every year and buy stuff. We always see them.
Huh.
And yeah. Anyway, love it there. What a great country for walking. Oh,
Oh, it's great.
walking around.
And riding a bicycle. I really got into my bicycle when I was there.
Right. I don't ride a bike anymore, but it was great,
Mhm.
and people paid attention to you if you were on a bicycle.
Oh, it's easy. It's not like here. It wasn't competitive. It was just part of it was like their trees growing, their
Right,
bicycles going. I mean, not,
right.
not a big deal.
I always felt safe on a bicycle. I rode a lot of bicycle in Japan.
Mm.
Well, where I live in Nogayama, it was a lot flatter
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
than a lot of places. Um, well, so how long were you in Japan?
10 years.
I didn't know that.
I was planning to go for 1
from where?
year.
What year did you go there?
I went 87 to 97.
I went in '88, and I remember being with you in. I was staying with Toshi
Hmm.
there in Gifuken in
Oh, yeah.
Marigawa. What was that place called?
I can't remember.
I've been back.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always go back and see him.
Oh, how
He
great.
came in and stayed with us in with Elon and me in Santa Fe,
Oh, how nice.
and I set him up in Fort Worth, Texas. You know, he's a car dealer. He had his
Mhm.
car
Yeah, yeah.
dealership in that little tiny country village. I got him in playing golf in Colonial Country Club, and where is a famous PGA golf course. And then I had one of the Hillards. The Hillard, very prominent family. Charlie Hillard was called King Charlie, and I was friends with the family. They had car lots, and they were like big Chevy dealership, like a number of Japanese and American models, and they gave him tours of car lots, like in Arlington and between Fort Worth and Dallas, where there's cars for sale as far as the eye can see.
Oh, my God.
In like,
I'm trying to picture it, and I'm kind of feeling thrilled and horrified at the same time.
right. And I took him to a line dancing bar
Oh,
in
good.
Santa Fe, and to a dinner where the waiters are singing "Night at the Opera" musical, and yeah, it was great. But visiting him, they have wonderful hot springs there.
Yes.
You can just walk to from his. And were you staying in Kaz Tanahashi's little?
Sometimes I stay there because this guy, Stefan.
cabin?
Remember Stefan?
Stephen Kohler.
Yeah.
The mad German artist.
He's a great person. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. What a beautiful stuff he made.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, he just felt
Yeah.
it. He could just pick up a brush and do it, Amazing.
He did well, and he became a master at the
Umbrella?
umbrella
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
He got. I mean, he's such a fanatic. The umbrella had 3 different artisans
Hmm.
would
Yeah.
make them, There's the one that made the frame,
Mm-hmm.
there's the one that did the paper, and there's the one who did the lacquer.
Mm-hmm.
And he studied with all three of them. He got their tools out of the with the help of Toshi and this other guy who lived like right near
I remember
Kaz's
that
place.
guy. I can't remember his name, but he was right across from Kaz's. Yeah.
Right across.
Amino,
And
I don't remember his name.
I wouldn't have any idea.
He was a great calligrapher. I got some, thanks.
Oh, really?
I got some, what do you call those things? Nengajo, at New Year's you get a card, and in the old days they did calligraphy. He was good.
Mm-hmm.
He was very good.
He was neat, and he sold he made like umbrellas with like newspaper on them or something, or it wasn't really newspaper, but it was the print from it came off or something. Anyway, a lot of cool stuff happening there, but through Stefan's amazing fanatic energy, which drove a lot of people crazy, and actually got his home burned down with all his art.
Oh shit!
Where he was living, and because he'd start lecturing people what they should do.
Oh, that's right. He did. I remember now. Now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Yes, he did, definitely.
When he drove, they drive with their dim lights on, just like your parking lights, whatever when it started getting dark, people would drive with those. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't right. They have to drive with the lights on. He'd go down the road flashing his brights at people. Turn your lights on. I said, hey, Stefan, that's not what they do in this country.
Yeah. No, I do remember incidents of him just insisting on something, that this is it.
Oh, yeah. And he set up a whole thing in Uganda. I don't know. That might be where he is now. But anyway, he got the tools to do all this stuff out of the museum with Toshi's help and the guy.
Oh, yeah.
There. And they were teaching people, reinvigorating it. You were involved in it. You were studying calligraphy there.
Yeah, I came out a couple of times, and it was great. And then I also went to, now what is it, Kurotani? Yeah, it's in Fukuiken, but it's on it's in Fukuiken. It's facing, the sea, the Japan Sea. It's another. I went with my calligraphy class had a field trip, so we went out there on the bus, and they explained they've been making paper here for 400 years, and and the water is very pure. That's very important for paper, and this is it. I'm going to come back here. So I came back. I was there for, I don't remember how long. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I lived with the family and, rode a bicycle over to the place where they made the paper. And it was great. I feel lucky. I feel very lucky.
Told me, you told me something once I have repeated many times, even recently, that, in Japan, but how you address people in different situations is very important.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you write somebody a letter, you address it to as a Suzuki-sama, not Suzuki-san.
Yeah.
Sama is more polite and sort of formal. So you were staying with somebody somewhere. You told me this.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe in Kyoto, or maybe it was in Gifu there. Maregawa. I think that might be called Maregawa, the village there where Toshi lived. I mean, that wonderful shrine. You could just walk up the hill from his place. There were woods there. You could walk, and he's right in the foothills of the Japan Alps. Such a great place.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you asked your landlord or something to put his address down so you could send it to people for them to to write you. So he gave you his address, his name, and the address. And then when you got a letter in care of him, he came storming to you. There's no Sama.
Oh, yeah.
There's no Sama on this.
Yeah, Samakata. It's sort of like care of, but it's an honorific care. It's for me, but it's in care of him. But there's a way you do it, like, the honorific for him. Yeah, I had no idea what to do. What? You try to do the right thing,
great.
but my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, I always remember that. You give. Anyway,
Yeah, somebody showed
um,
me how to do it the right way, so I didn't make that mistake again.
were you in Kyoto the whole time then?
I was in Kyoto, let's see, except for when I was in the temple, which was several months twice. And
You're
then,
talking about when you say the temple. You're talking about Hoshinji in Obama.
yeah, I wasn't at Hoshinji, but I was at the connected temple near Hoshinji. I mean,
Oh,
it was in Oigun, which is it's a very rural place, and the temple had it had the person who ran
well,
it.
Obama's very rural too. If
Oh
you're
no,
saying,
no! Obama ain't nothing in terms of rural compared to where I was. I was in a village with 30 people, 30 families
uh-huh.
at this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on the side of a mountain. When they had
Yeah.
ceremonies, they had to have different temples would come, and they didn't like one place had the ceremonial chair, which they bring over in a pickup truck. And then the other people had other things. It wasn't enough in our temple to do a complete ceremony, so they bring all the equipment and do it. Different people would contribute.
Uh-huh.
It was
Uh-huh.
also one of those things where one time I guess I had to bring the recycling stuff into a certain place in the village, and then I got a little mixed up about how to get back to the temple. And people just all the time, every time I went out, they would ask me where things, make sure I knew what I was doing. Word spread that tall one, this new gaijin doesn't get it, and they would show me where things were and make sure I understood. And
Yeah,
yeah,
they certainly can be helpful.
yeah, there's the
Yeah.
kind of thing where the village, you talk to one person, you've spoken to the village, Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And you taught English?
I taught English when I was in Kyoto. When I was in the temple, I just did temple stuff. I cleaned things.
Well, I
And, yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you're in Kyoto,
Yeah.
did you work for a company?
Most of the time I tried to work, depending on my visa, I tried to work little jobs with various people so I could get off and go to sessions. I
Yeah.
think near the end I got to work. I wasn't doing sessions, and I got a work visa. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was a very good place. People were very nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We did we had a couple of symbolic things we were doing that were recognized by immigration, but almost everything we did was under the table.
Yeah.
And they knew it. Immigration knew it.
Uh-huh.
We had a really good relationship with the head guy there. His underling was severe and would have
Yeah.
chastised us and gotten us demoted. But from the first day, I went into immigration there, and it's a distance from Okayama. It's like, an hour away
Mm-hmm.
with different types of transit to go to immigration. And this guy was like, he was like cop mentality, suspicious and this and that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this guy, what was his name? Miyake-san or something? He was standing back there and he came over and said, I'll take care of these people.
Hey.
Oh, was he wonderful?
Yeah.
Was he wonderful? He'd say, now, you can't be, you say, you can't actually teach now because, you see, Japanese plan things, and they don't understand Americans coming over here without enough money to, they
wonderful.
plan things. They'd have enough to last for a long.
Yeah.
So you have enough to keep you going for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have a job before that. He'd tell me, don't let us know about.
Yeah.
And then once he asked, and then he showed me a picture of Elon on a cultural center in downtown Okayama as one of their teachers.
Uh-oh.
And he said, oh, I said, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And he said, well, that's okay. You see, because she's the wife and it's appropriate for her to blah, blah, blah. But he just took care of us. It was so good.
That's wonderful.
So nice. Yeah. I loved the way some of them, I was filling out a form down in City Hall, something to do with a parking place
Mm-hmm.
or something. We got a car. We had a car for half a year,
Mm-hmm.
which was all right when because we had a baby and stuff.
Oh,
We only
yeah.
had it at the end of our stay there. And you have to have a parking place. Well,
Oh,
the
that's
temple let
right,
us
yeah.
use their parking lot,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but we had a space that we called the parking place. They come out and measure it. And I was filling something out, and the man asked me a question, and I said, "Oh no, this was different. It wasn't a parking place. It was when we were first there." Anyway, I'm down at City Hall, and he asked me a question, and I go, "Oh no, you know, I'm whatever." He asked me, "Do you have so and so?" And I went, "No, we don't have so and so." And he went, "Well, actually, you need to have so and so to be living here in blah blah blah." I went, "Well, we don't have it." And he leaned forward and he said, "Pretend."
That's wonderful. Wow, that's great.
And, once you start understanding things like that in Japan, there is so much pretending.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just smooth it over. It's okay.
There's so much. And it is allowed. It is an important part of the culture to present the right, the honmai, the omotemae, the face in front, right? Not the honmai, how you really are.
No.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's great. You were there 10 years, my God, and you came back in 97. We were there 4 years. That's pretty good. I got so tired of teaching English.
Yeah. When I came back here, I started teaching it. It was so interesting because it was so many different countries, It was really different.
Well, people always, I would hear it over and over. People who went to Japan just to teach English and make money, it could be a very depressing,
that's very depressing.
experience.
I met people like that in Kyoto, and it was just like, oh, honey, just do some tea ceremony or flowers or something, just pick up a little something,
Yeah, you got to be involved. Learn the language, get to know people, be involved with the practice, with the martial art, with something. You know.
Yeah.
But I would talk to people who had been making a lot of money teaching English in Japan. It wasn't real rewarding because it was like the 50s in Texas where I grew up. We were all rich kids. We weren't worried about anything. We didn't care. So the students really weren't very good. And also there's a problem just culturally. And they go teach for like nothing in a camp for refugees. And it was just so wonderful to have these people that are dying to learn.
Oh, yeah.
And, and they wouldn't be depressed and they would have a rewarding experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that here. I taught in an adult school and non-credit classes in a community college. They're free classes, and they're people who are here. They got here with their families, and they're trying to get the English so they can keep going. I mean, it's much closer. You know what I mean? It's not separate from their lives. It's like, what are we going to do? And and just you teach English, but you also help them understand what the holidays are. Why their kids aren't going to school for 2 days, and
Yeah.
One time someone came, and this was in a different class. He came. I don't remember. I think it was Eastern Europe. And he arrived, he understood how someone tipped him off how to get housing, but he hadn't gotten food. And he came to an evening class in ESL and he collapsed because he'd been 3 days without any food. And luckily there was someone downstairs in the office where the teacher just ran downstairs and they got him all fixed up and found out how they could get money for him for food and everything. But, people were doing their best to do what they could do here, once they got here.
So since 97, you've gotten involved with Vipassana, and what sort of work were you doing or whatever?
Oh, Vipassana happened a little later. That was after 2000. I think it was around 2010, or I don't remember when. What kind
Yeah.
of work was I doing? I was teaching English here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you were doing English second
Oh, yeah.
language. Did you? I mean, did you continue that? Was the main thing you did through the years?
Yes, I did practice at a certain point. I'm very interested in conflict resolution, so I trained as a mediator, even though I wasn't going to be a mediator, just so I could learn about conflict resolution. And at Berkeley Adult School for a while, I taught a Saturday class it was English second language, but conflict resolution, because people may have grammar and pronunciation and confidence in speaking, but the way you solve conflict or tension at work or with your neighbors is different than it is here, different in their country than here. And so talking about how to do it and using, making I statements, I feel this because of that, instead of you did that, you awful person, things like that.
Yeah.
We would just do those things. I liked it. I liked doing it.
Right. Right. A thing I've found is important is don't use the word always.
Ah, yes. You always.
You always do so and so. And actually, it's good in writing.
Yeah.
Is to avoid. I've found it's not really true very often. You know.
Mm-hmm.
The sun always rises, you could say.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. Yeah, so far.
well, look, Anne, you've been very generous with your time and your life, and we have been talking for over 2 hours now. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's time to wrap it up.
I think so too.
But as I do a lot of podcasts, with guests who are from the Zen realm, and I love it when I see their practice continuing through the decades in there. And here you are doing Vipassana. I like Vipassana too. I like Vipassana not so much for the intellectual part of it. I like the retreats.
Yeah.
And I don't pay so much attention to the other stuff.
Yeah, you might as well just say what you say,
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. I do have friends that are fanatic Vipassana, former Zen, and are really into all these rules and ways of understanding things.
Yeah. I think you're very kind, and I enjoyed talking with you very much. I was happy to talk about things like how I felt when Richard Baker came into the Zendo, when Suzuki Roshi died. There are not that many people I can talk to about those things,
Oh. Well, I've enjoyed it. I always enjoyed talking with you. And it's been a long time.
A long time.
A long time. But I see you on Facebook sometimes. That's why. I saw you there, and I went, God, I need to do a podcast, and I'm gonna get hold of Peter.
Oh.
And do him next.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If he'd be so kind, I imagine he would. Men tend to do it. There's a very high percentage of women don't want to do it.
Oh.
I don't know. They're hesitant. So I always like getting a female to be a podcast guest. Yes. So do you have any parting statement?
Oh, no.
No.
Let's keep trying to build something together for the people who come after us.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's good point.
That's from Richard Baker, that we're building something for the people who come after us. To remember that, just that you don't just try to have a wonderful experience and meet some teacher who will say something astonishing, that we're actually making something together, and with the people in our country too.
Yeah. That's very good. Very good. I appreciate it. I will. No, really, that's helpful. That will stay with me.
Oh, good. Good,
So,
good.
yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure. Yeah, and do take care.
You too. Take care.
All
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thanks a lot, Ann Overton. I really appreciate it. That's all very interesting. Um, and got to get hold of her twin brother, Peter. See if he'd join us. So until next time, this is DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Doggett Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. We're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.